What's up guys, Dan Furlan here and welcome back to a new video. If you're new to this channel, there's one thing you need to know. I make videos with and about the Canon EOS R, the Canon 90D and the Canon M50. What am I gonna talk about today? If you own a Canon M50 or Canon M50 Mark II and you wanna make videos in your studio, in your room, but your space is a little bit limited, what lens would you need? What field of view would you need? Well, I'm gonna help you to figure it out after the intro. If you own a Canon M50 or M50 Mark II, chances are you have the kit lens, the 15 to 45 millimeters. Well, I'm gonna use this lens on the Canon M50 just to give you an idea of the focal length you need, and then we'll see it. Just 1 second. And this is the Canon M50 with the EF-M 15 to 45 millimeters. At 15 millimeters, maximum aperture when at 15 millimeters f3.5, and it looks pretty dark. So we need to adjust the ISO. ISO 200. This is what you get with this camera and the kit lens when the camera is set on a tripod in front of you. Like, look, I can touch the lens right now, so it's pretty near. So if you have a limited space, if you have enough space in front of you so that you can touch the camera like this, touching the lens, not the center of the lens of course, I don't want to make it dirty, but if you have that space, at 15 millimeters, this is what you get. And behind me, the wall is at approximately 10 feet, 10 feet away from me. So at 3.5, even though we don't get the shallow depth of field, it's not completely in focus, let's say. But when we zoom in, the maximum aperture changes. As soon as we zoom in just a tiny little bit, it goes to f5 and so on. Not ideal for indoors. Why am I showing you this then? Well, just to give you an idea of the field of view of what you get in frame with the 15 millimeters. That actually corresponds to 24 because of the crop sensor. So let's say in this case we have enough space to zoom in a little bit more. Let's see. Right now, 24 millimeters. Now the maximum aperture is f4.5. So I guess I was wrong. It doesn't go immediately to f5, but it passes through f4.5. And this is what it looks like, a field of view of 24 millimeters on the Canon M50. And 24 millimeters corresponds to a 38 or something. 38.4 millimeters on a full frame. So this is what we get. If we zoom in farther, I guess it's not gonna work because we do not have enough space. I should move the camera farther away from me, but if we don't have enough space to do that, we can't. So let's see. You see now at 35 millimeters and it's a little bit tight. Unless that's what you want. But you definitely can't make an entire video like this just with your head. And it's just 35 millimeters. That corresponds to a 56. Aperture f5.6. What if we go to 45 millimeters? 45. There isn't much difference, but of course it's definitely tighter. Now the maximum aperture is f6.3. Let's go back to an ideal field of view for the Canon M50 in this environment. We would be, in my opinion, the 24 millimeters. Right now, 24 millimeters, ISO 200, aperture f4.5. For the people who ask me, I got a Canon M50 and I need another lens to shoot indoors in my studio, but I have a limited space. What lens should I buy? My answer, the EF-S 24mm f2.8 is a great solution. By the way, they call it the pancake lens. and here it is. So we get the same field of view that we get from the kit lens when set to 24mm, but with a better quality and a better aperture, like wider. Right now, the aperture is set to f2.8. Therefore, I was able to lower the ISO to 100, and this is what it looks like. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you think, and hit the like button and subscribe if you ain't already. And again, check the links in the description to see all my gear stuff and things. My gear. So in my opinion, if you don't have much room in your studio, in your bedroom, or wherever you want to shoot your videos indoors with the Canon M50 or M50 Mark II, this is a great solution. I usually recommend the Nifty 50, but that's a different story because the Canon EF 50mm f1.8 is just great with its maximum aperture like f1.8. You can get such a shallow depth of field, but the problem is, as you have seen from the kit lens at 45mm, is already too tight, and 50 is even tighter. It corresponds to an 80mm on a full frame. And this is the Canon EF 50mm f1.8. The Nifty 50 on the Canon M50. I haven't moved the tripod with the camera on the top. Everything is just like it was before when I was shooting with the 24mm and with the kit lens. And you see, if you don't have much space available in front of you to move the camera farther, I don't know how much you're gonna need a shot like this. By the way, I use an adapter, the Viltrox adapter. It worked perfectly on the Canon M50. But there is another thing called the speed booster, which is something that allows me to use on EF lenses only. Like in this case on the Nifty 50, I could use the speed booster instead of the regular adapter. And what are the benefits? Well, first of all, it will improve the field of view because instead of being a 50mm looking like an 80mm, with a speed booster we can multiply that times 0.71, so we get the field of view of 56-ish millimeters. Let's see it. And this is the Canon M50 with the EF 50mm f1.8, the Nifty 50, but with a speed booster. As you can see, there is some improvement, but if your space is limited and you can't move the camera forward, that'd be too tight anyway. Well, I'm sure you can find some use for this kind of shot, but just every now and then. You don't want to make a video that looks like this from the beginning to the end. That would be awkward. But keep in mind that this setup, the Canon M50, the Nifty 50 and the speed booster, is a great setup for B-rolls. Then of course, if you do have more space available in front of you, just move the camera forward and it will look amazing because of the shallow depth of field. Because the other thing that the speed booster does, it increases the maximum aperture. Because right now the maximum aperture is not f1.8 anymore, but f1.2. Let's go back to the pancake length and let's wrap it up. So if you have more space, let's say another 3 feet, 4 feet or something like that, 1.5 meters or 2 meters, so that you can move your camera farther, the Nifty 50 is a great lens. If you have a limited space, but not so tiny, and you have the possibility to put your camera on the tripod but you can still touch the lens, well then the EFS 24mm is a great choice. If your space is even smaller than this, you can get a 10 to 18mm. If your room is really small, with the EFS 10 to 18mm, which is filming right now, you can film yourself even in a room the size of a closet. 10 to 18mm at 10mm, which corresponds to a 16mm on a full frame. In that case, you might lose some light because its maximum aperture when at 10mm is at 4.5. Even compared to the kit lens, 3.5, it's a loss. But if your space is really tiny, the 10 to 18mm might be a good choice. Even if you have a larger studio but you want a particular effect, you want more stuff in the shot. But again, if you ask me, first lens you need to get for filming indoors, like in a small studio, the EFS 24mm f2.8, the pancake lens. Then, the second best in my opinion is the Nifty 50, even though you can't use it all the time to film yourself because it's too tight, but for some shots it might work. To punch in a little bit sometimes during the video, but the main reason why I strongly recommend the Nifty 50 is because it allows us to make awesome B-rolls. Alright, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.